Oh, hey, today we're going to begin our conversation about Canada. We're going to talk about Canada's physical geography. The big picture: Canada is a huge country with a northerly location, cold climates, and rich resources. A long international boundary separates Canada and the United States. With the exception of the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes, there is no actual physical boundary between the two countries. Rivers, lakes, prairies, mountain ranges cross the border. There you have the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes, and let's continue north. Did you know that Canada is the second largest country in the world? Russia is the only country in the world that is larger than Canada. The United States is the third largest country in the world and shares many physical features with Canada. In the west, the Rocky Mountains extend north into western Canada from the western United States. Broad plains stretch across the interiors of both countries. In the east, the two countries share a border formed by the St. Louis River, an important international waterway. The St. Lawrence River links the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. The United States and Canada also share a spectacular physical feature called Niagara Falls. The falls are located on the Niagara River between the province of Ontario and New York State. Created by the waters of Niagara, the falls flow between two of the Great Lakes, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. The falls plunge an average of 162 feet or 50 meters, as measured in Canada, down a huge ledge that is higher than many 15-story buildings. Canada has a region of rocky uplands, lakes, and swamps called the Canadian Shield. Farther north, Canada stretches all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. The land here is covered with ice year-round. Ellesmere Island is very rugged, with snow-covered mountains and jagged coastlines. Very few people live this far north, but wildlife like the polar bear and the Arctic wolf have adapted to the harsh environment. So the Rocky Mountains continuing up out of America, or out of the United States, the Atlantic Ocean, there's a picture of Niagara Falls, which is located right here between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. The Canadian Shield runs across this portion of Canada. The Arctic Ocean north. Where the Ellesmere Islands are located, where polar bears and Arctic wolves hang out. Canada's location greatly influences the country's climate. Canada is located far from the equator at much higher latitudes than the United States. This more northerly location gives Canada cool to freezing temperatures year-round. The farther north you go in Canada, the colder it gets. The coldest areas of Canada are located close to the Arctic Circle. Much of central and northern Canada has a subarctic climate. The north has tundra and ice-cap climates. About half of Canada lies in these extremely cold climates. The central and eastern parts of southern Canada have a much different climate. It is humid and relatively mild. However, the mildest area of Canada is along the coast of British Columbia. This location on the Pacific coast brings rainy winters and mild temperatures. Inland areas of southern Canada are colder and drier. Canada is incredibly rich in natural resources, such as fish, minerals, and forest. Canada's Atlantic and Pacific coastal waters are among the world's richest fishing areas. Off the Atlantic coast lies a large fishing ground near Newfoundland and Labrador called the Grand Banks. Here, cold waters from the Labrador Sea meet the warm waters of the Gulf Stream. These conditions are ideal for the growth of tiny organisms or plankton that fish like to eat. As a result, large schools of fish gather at the Grand Banks. However, recently, overfishing of this region has left many fishers in Canada unemployed. Minerals are also valuable resources in Canada. The Canadian Shield contains many mineral deposits. Canada is a main source of the world's nickel, zinc, and uranium. Lead, copper, gold, and silver are also important resources. Saskatchewan has large deposits of potash, a mineral that is used to make fertilizer. Alberta produces most of Canada's oil and natural gas. Vast areas of forest stretch across most of Canada from Labrador to the Pacific coast. These trees provide lumber and pulp. Pulp is a softened wood fibers is used to make paper. The United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan get much of their newsprint from Canada. Newsprint is cheap paper mainly used for newspapers.